Holy Tornado by Cecilia White. It was a warm day in Oak Lawn on April 21st, 1967. By early afternoon, temperatures rose to the high 70s. The weather disguised itself as a beautiful spring day. However, some violent storms were making their way across the map. Severe weather trekked across Kansas, Iowa, and Missouri. By 1:50 in the afternoon, the Weather Bureau issued a tornado watch for northern Illinois and southern Wisconsin. Uncle Tom was working as a meat cutter in a food mart on 95th Street and Southwest Highway. Shoppers scurried through the aisles, nervously grabbing their food off the shelves and hurrying to the cashiers. Severe weather was approaching, and they were eager to get home to their families. Uncle Tom, on the other hand, was not so worried. After all, he was a World War II vet, and he had seen plenty of action on a ship in the Sea of Japan. A thunderstorm or torrential downpour wasn't going to get the best of him. 4:45 p.m. A funnel cloud is spotted 18 miles northwest of Joliet. Within a matter of minutes, a nightmare would be descending upon Oak Lawn. As families gathered in their basements, huddled around their TV sets, or listening to the radios, Uncle Tom stepped into the parking lot to assess the situation. It was rush hour, and cars were lined up for blocks along 95th Street. The sky had grown significantly darker, and there appeared to be a greenish hue in the clouds. As hail, the size of golf balls, plummeted to the ground, Uncle Tom ran back inside. And then the sounds came. First, it was the blaring sounds of the sirens, and then the terrifying sounds of a rushing train. Frantically, Uncle Tom grabbed his coworker and slid under their butcher table. He sighed a woman with her baby, but there was nothing they could do now. Within seconds, the tornado tore across the intersection of 95th and Southwest Highway. It leveled everything in its sight, including Oak Lawn High School, a tavern, a restaurant, a motel, and of course, the supermarket where Uncle Tom worked. Nearly 40 people died just at that intersection. Most of them were the poor people locked in traffic. The tornado hurled cars across the residential area, destroying millions of dollars of property as well. Mike Magliano was a Chicago cop who overheard on his radio the damage that had been done on Southwest Highway. But what about Uncle Tom? What has happened to him? He pleaded into the non-respondent radio. His heart sank as he went home to tell his father about the devastation. Distraught, his father took Mike and jumped into his car. He needed to know for sure. Was his brother crushed by this raging act of nature? The two men approached the place of impact, but they could not get their car any closer than a few blocks from the wreckage. Trudging across broken debris and historical survivors, they located a police officer and inquired about the victims. Solemnly, the officer hung his head and replied, "I'm sorry, gents, but there were no survivors. Why don't you head to the morgue to see if you can identify his body?" Mike and his father reluctantly headed for the morgue, tormented by the fate of their family member. As they fought their way through the crowd, they were given the news that Tom Magliano was not among the dead. Confused, but also relieved, they thought of the only place he could be. Did Tom actually make it to his home in Burbank? As they approached Tom's home, they hoped and prayed that Tom would be there. Much to their surprise and relief, a calm but disheveled man sat at his kitchen table sipping on a beer. This strong and courageous survivor had pried himself and his coworker out from the rubble with just a 2x4 and a whole lot of muscle. As the men rushed into each other's arms, they couldn't help but thank God for the protection of a single butcher table and maybe a few angels as well.